Als je deze ride, zo kan je dat noemen, van de afgelopen 5 jaar in 1 zin zou moeten omschrijven, wat is dat?
A hell of a ride. Looking back at this mandate, 2019-2024, I think we can be really proud.
We see that some people didn't do anything and that others, were more busy the last 5 years.
I was the rapporteur on the modernized and new trade agreement with Chile. The second result that we as a team are very proud of is, of course, the Pay Transparency Directive. The third success I think we can be proud of is also the Women on Boards Directive.
The outcome of the matrix is that Samira Rafaela is the most productive Dutch member of the European Parliament, which is actually a very good score and a better score than the other 27.
And then my last big result, of course, is the forced labour ban regulation. So we will have a new instrument in place to fight forced labour. This is really what the forced labour ban regulation is about. It's about protecting human rights, but it's also about promoting our own values and standards. And these cannot be only empty talks. Well, the forced labour ban regulation is about the EU banning products from the internal market that are made out of forced labour. This is something very unique. It's a broad instrument, an inclusive instrument that is taking into account many important factors, like for example state-imposed forced labour. It's a very good positive development that we have it as an instrument specifically to target the products that are made out of forced labour. Are you ready for the debate?
Ready for the debate. We think tomorrow in the press conference there are many questions.
Yeah. For the forced labour ban regulation, I became one of the co-rapporteurs, meaning that I am the lead negotiator on behalf of the European Parliament. And as the Renew rapporteur, it was really important for me to find a compromise, also within my own group. So we had a strong emphasis on an accessible database, support for the SMEs, but also on remedy, because we really thought it needed to be an instrument with teeth. I am filled with gratitude and also optimism, as we are prepared to cast our votes on the groundbreaking forced labour ban regulation. The journey to this moment has been challenging, marked by countless negotiations, discussions, but we can be very proud of the collaborative spirit that has brought us to this point. This was a very challenging process. I mean, obviously political groups have different opinions, they have different views. But I'd say that we managed very constructively because the main essence that we could agree on was really that we need to fight human rights violations.
We have to go through your speech for forced labour ban.
Yeah, I did
just
that.
for the minor details. If there's anything else you want to change, you want to do.
So-called series, I already amended that. But don't we call it a database? We call it now a single user portal.
That was for that's what you told me back then. It's the portal which is for the authorities. You can call it a database.
All right, how do you think the debate will go?
I think we prepared a good speech. All the points are highlighted well into it.
Yeah.
I think stick to what we have.
Yeah.
Parliament has indicated to be positive regarding the vote tomorrow.
Yeah.
Either way, it's your show. Run it.
Okay, thanks. See you later. The forced labour ban regulation resembles a grand marathon with many challenges along the way that made the journey both demanding and fulfilling. This regulation will be groundbreaking and unique. It is broad, inclusive, and tackles many issues. The forced labour ban will put a halt to the entry of products and services produced under dire, inhumane, and undignified circumstances. For too long, we have accepted products and services that are cheap at the expense of societal consequences on the people involved in the production or supply chain. Almost 30 million people are a victim of forced labor worldwide. Several companies in the world make $236 billion out of it by making products through forced labor. So there is a very unhealthy economic incentive that we need to take away. And this is obviously where a broad part of the European Parliament agrees on. If we want to explain to our citizens why they should keep voting for the European elections, why the European Parliament delivers for citizens, then this is one of the very good examples how we are preventing people in the world to become a victim of forced labor. The competent authorities in member states can really work with it efficiently. That was one of the main challenges for this instrument. We've been asking for this instrument since 2022 because we really wanted it to make it a separate instrument from the new directive on due diligence, because otherwise it is about the broader organizational change of companies only, while we also need a specific instrument that will target this very negative incentive of working with forced labor.
This is really about being able to say to European consumers that what they are consuming and what they are buying in shops and services, that they are not tainted with environmental damage and human rights abuses. So once again, Samira's passion for these subjects comes through in the way that she guided her rapporteurship on forced labour and the support that she gave me on the supply chain due diligence law.
Forced labour vote, yes.
Yeah, we are going to the forced labor ban regulation vote now. That will be very unique. It will be one of a kind. The first EU forced labor ban regulation ever.
Correct.
I expect a big majority. I do expect it. I really hope that MEPs will not vote against it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of MEPs will do that.
You'll take us to dinner if we get 600 votes in favor.
And then we have our legacy. Oh my God, these 27.6 million people that are a victim of forced labor. I really hope they get justice now. Okay, thanks.
Pirmais lasījums ir pabeigts. Eugenija Rodrīgas Palop un Malin Bjorka ziņojums par cilvēku.
When it comes to the final outcome, I think you can say that the European Parliament had some big wins. We have state-imposed forced labor as an indicator for doing investigations, but also as an indicator for the database in which we will gather information. We have remedy mainstreamed throughout the text. So in this way we support companies and economic operators to put effort in remedy. In general, we got a strong function for the database. And I think in general we can say that there is a strong instrument that will now target products that are made out of forced labor. And we support also the competent authorities in our member states and companies to make sure that they have the right resources in place. It's a very unique regulation. It never happened in this way. So we have our first forced labor ban regulation now.
Samira, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here, for attending this important press conference. It's a true privilege and an honor to stand here together with Maria as rapporteur on the forced labor ban regulation. Forced labor has no place in today's world, and nor should it have had any place in any society at any time. Press conference was very special, of course. I mean, it was my last press conference.
Can you give us some idea of timelines about how soon an investigation
could be started and completed.
Thank you very much. Well, concerning the timeline, I mean, in general, the regulation will apply 3 years after the publication in the official journal of the European Union. And then 2 years after this and every 5 years thereafter, the Commission will carry out an evaluation on the enforcement of the regulation. So that's in general on the legislative process. And this regulation is groundbreaking and it's unique. It's inclusive, broad, and together with several other regulations and directives, such as the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, a real game changer is happening here. It's really now up to the European Commission to make sure that the implementation will go well. I would like to thank everyone who has worked very hard on this file. My team, Renew Europe, my co-rapporteur, her team, the colleagues, the staff, and I look forward to the implementation and moreover to a world free from slavery and forced labor, to a world in which we individuals are aware of our actions and impacts that our behaviors have. Thank you. Ik ben wel echt ontzettend trots op wat we hebben neergezet in die 5 jaar. Ook op mijn team. Ja, die hebben ook ongelooflijk hard geknald. Ik bedoel, je kunt als Europarlementariër niet effectief zijn als je geen goede mensen hebt die met jou werken. We have the EU Gender and Trade Standalone chapter that has happened for the very first time in a trade agreement. And it's a very strong trade agreement that is focused on trade and sustainability and energy and sustainability. So that really will set a precedent for the future trade agreements. And I am very proud that I could be the rapporteur on that.
For me, trade is very important because at the end of the day, it's not only about an exchange of products, it's also who are you exchanging this product with. And at the end of the day, it's about increasing fairness and creating prosperity and welfare in a fair way.
Behind these products, there are stories of human beings. And that's the whole thing. It's not a very technical thing only here that we are discussing. It's also a human rights issue that we are discussing.
For me, in a polarized world, we need a multipolar approach, where we still sit together and try to make agreements that at the end of the day are good for farmers in the Netherlands, but also in other places of the world, but also good for small and medium enterprises. They encourage fairness, social conditions, and help improve the environment. That's something that I passionately fought for, and I found Samira to be someone who had the same passion in order to improve these trade agreements.
Mohamed Shahim is a very effective colleague. He is inspiring, and I can definitely tell that he has determined a big part of future climate and trade-related policies. With this Pay Transparency Directive, we hope to close the gender pay gap that is too high at the moment in the European Union. And for the first time ever, we have intersectional discrimination and non-binary workers recognized in EU legislation with this Pay Transparency Directive. And with this Pay Transparency Directive, EU workers need to make sure that they have the right to information through asking for that information. That is safeguarded now with this new directive and legislation. And I think that is really a great success for gender equality in our society. Het is ongelooflijk hoe mensen aan het uitsterven zijn, hoe mensen aan het lijden zijn. En de internationale gemeenschap slaagt er maar niet in om dit te stoppen. En echt waar, het kan zo niet verder.
We worked very closely on Gaza, where there has been a terrible humanitarian catastrophe. We've worked closely on the question of a review of the EU-Israel Association Agreement. We've worked closely on the question of continuing support for UNRWA, which is a crucial lifeline for the people of Gaza. And of course, we've worked very closely on the question of the need for a permanent ceasefire to try and bring this catastrophe to an end.
Barry Andrews is a fantastic colleague, and we work together in the International Trade Committee, and he is also working in the Committee on Development, and he has a really strong human rights lens.
Central to her worldview, very clearly, is human rights and the most vulnerable come first, and our laws must be designed to protect those who are most vulnerable.
I could negotiate that on behalf of the European Parliament, and with this Women on Boards directive we make sure that more women are at the top level of the big famous companies. So this Women on Boards directive has been very important to me, and I'm also very happy that we got the so-called faming mechanism in it. So that was my idea, to put companies on a list that abide by these rules and that are doing a good job. It was obviously very special to enter that hemicycle in the plenary room and knowing that I would cast my vote for the very last time on a file that I'm responsible for on behalf of the European Parliament. And at the same time I feel like we're leaving at a point that we have so much success, and it really makes me proud. But yes, in a way it was special today.
You're not running again for
No. So yeah, I mean, and I'm also fulfilled. Like I feel like we've done a lot.
What I like about the work of Samira is that she always reminded us that the OCTs are very important. I grew up in a neighborhood with many people coming from Curaçao. So when she was fighting to make sure that also during the pandemic, we wouldn't forget about these overseas countries and territories, it was something that really was good to see. Because sometimes you forget, but at the end of the day, whether you live in a small city, Helmond, or in Amsterdam, or in one of the overseas countries and territories, you all belong to Europe.
Samira is one of the most fearless parliamentarians I've come across. I was a member of the National Parliament in my home country in Ireland, and I'm now a member of the European Parliament, and she is tenacious in the pursuit of the issues that she's passionate about, but she's absolutely fearless, sometimes advocating for issues that are close to her heart on her own, sometimes with very few people on her side, but never taking a step back. It's an incredibly admirable quality in a parliamentarian.
Samira Rafaela made a huge impression on, I think, everyone she met here. I mean, of course, I can't talk for other people, but I mean, I would say from my perspective, members of the European Parliament are not outspoken. They are people who you tend to forget that they exist. And in the case of Samira Rafaela, that's more or less impossible.
What I like about Samira is that she had a very strong passion to make sure that everyone is represented. Her idea of taking the European Parliament to the street is something that I support wholeheartedly, because at the end of the day, we need to represent everyone.
I would say she is one of the best MEPs that we had in the last period.
After politics, there's obviously a new life, and I'm really much looking forward to go into the academic world. So I will become a visiting fellow of Cornell University, and I'll work with their Global Labour Institute in the area of corporate accountability and forced labour. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but it's very obvious that I will keep advocating for human rights, women's rights and fair trade.
And I've no doubt that whatever the next chapter of her life brings, she'll continue to bring that fearlessness into whatever she does.
Als je deze ride, zo kan je dat noemen, van de afgelopen 5 jaar in 1 zin zou moeten omschrijven, wat is dat?
A hell of a ride. A hell of a ride. Maar weet je, positief.
Dankjewel.
Dankjewel.